introduce my intern this year. Joshua Lambert is a third-year law student at Washburn. And so if you guys ever need any help, you know, Joshua's been a lot of help to me so far this year. So thank you, Joshua. All right, next item on the agenda is bill introductions. Do we have any bills? Representative Van Houten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to introduce Bill RS 2983, an act concerning motor vehicles relating to distinctive license plates provided for the Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever license plate.
Anybody have any questions for Representative Van Houten? Okay, any objection to the introduction of the bill? If not, the bill is introduced. Other introductions. Representative Turner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'd like to introduce 26 RS 2920. And this is a bill that would allow a mailing address to appear on a driver's license instead of the residential address if requested.
All right, does anybody have any questions regarding the bill? Representative Goddard.
Is this on behalf of someone or for yourself?
Myself, a constituent.
You want to list the constituent, that it's on behalf of a certain constituent?
I didn't know that was an option, but I don't have the name spelling, so no, I'll go with it mine.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Okay. Representative Delperdang.
Just curiosity on the bill to whomever's sitting down out here, that if you're in a traffic accident, you are severely injured or killed, et cetera, here's my license with a P.O. box, who do they notify?
I think that'll be questions that we'll ask when we hear the bill. And maybe some of the concerns. Any other questions? Unless Representative Turner, you're an expert on the, and you want to answer that? Okay. Any other questions? Is there any objection to the introduction of the bill? If not, the bill's introduced. Do we have any other bill introductions? Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a bill introduction 26 RS 3067. This bill would name a portion of K49 for and to the junction of US 160 in Sumner County to memorial Private Michael Gerber, who was killed in action in Vietnam.
Did you want to introduce it on behalf of anybody?
Just his family. But let's just say myself.
Okay, all right. Is there any other questions? Is there any objection to the introduction of the bill? If not, the bill's introduced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Claudia, we'll let you come up now.
Thank you, Chairman. Claudia Hassong on behalf of Kansas Farm Bureau requesting introduction of RS 2921, an act regarding the definition and registration of antique farm vehicles.
Does anybody have any questions for Claudia? Is there any objection to the introduction of the bill? If not, the bill's introduced. Thank you. Any other bill introductions? Representative Helgerson.
I have a license tag bill for public television in Wichita so that they can have their own license tags.
Okay, do you have an RS number?
Yes, R26 RS 2603.
And is it on behalf of,
Big Bird.
it's on behalf of, I mean, what do you want it? You want it on behalf of
I've been waiting to do
Wichita
that for years.
or Big
No,
Bird?
me.
On you? Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions? Representative Wilborn.
Mr. Chair, when's the last day for bill introductions? Is that Monday? Today?
I don't think that's right. Go ahead. Yeah, Chris can answer that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the last day to request an individually sponsored bill that you plan on sponsoring yourself is today. The deadline for requesting committee is next Monday, February 2nd. So that would be the last day request, and then intro deadlines are following that Wednesday, the 4th for individual bills, and intros for committee bills is the Friday, February 6th.
So
Thank you.
just so we got it, they've got to talk to you before the 2nd, and they've got to get it to the committee before the 6th.
No, they need to request it in committee by Monday, the 2nd.
Okay,
Thank you. Just a matter of wording it.
yeah, yeah. So get those RS numbers. Do we have any other bill introductions? Representative Helgerson?
Mr. Chairman, on reflection, I would like this to be a committee bill rather than, tag it with my name.
Right.
Is that right?
Well, but we say who we want them introduced on behalf of for part of the tracking process.
Right.
So you'll be listed as the person. Okay, any other bill introductions? All right, seeing none, we're going to move into the hearings. So at this time, I would like to open a hearing on House Bill 2471 that designates a portion of I-35 as the Deputy Sam Smith Memorial Highway. What gave you a demotion there, Chris? Would you please give us an overview of the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, House Bill 2471 would designate a portion of Interstate 35 as the Deputy Sam Smith Memorial Highway. It also redesignates a current portion of the 35th Infantry Division Memorial Highway that's currently designated on that same portion of Interstate 35. So Section 1, the Deputy Sam Smith Memorial Highway would be on Interstate 35 in Franklin County from its northern junction with US Highway 59, and then go south to its junction with Eisenhower Road. As for all highway designations, those signs will not be placed until the requirements of KSA 6810, 114 are met, which provides that the Secretary should not place those signs until they receive 100% of the cost sufficient to cover the sign and an additional 50% for any future maintenance or replacement costs for the sign. Section 2 redesignates that portion of the 35th Infantry Division Memorial Highway, as I stated earlier. The remainder of that highway will remain designated for the 35th Infantry Division, just with that portion for the Deputy Sam Smith Memorial Highway kind of cut out for it. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Chris? Representative Brunk?
Thank you. Could you give the geography of that again? Where?
So it's in Franklin County on I-35 from its northern junction with US Highway 59, and then go south to the junction with I-35 and Eisenhower Road.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Guess we don't have the fiscal note back yet on this bill, so we can't review that. And with that, we'll start with our oral proponents. And the first that I have on the list is Representative Schmoy. Welcome to the committee, Representative.
Thank you for having me, Chairman. Thank you for making time for this. It is with great respect and reverence that I come before you today to honor the memory and lasting impact of Franklin County Deputy Sheriff Samuel Adam Smith, who tragically lost his life in the line of duty. Sam was involved in a single vehicle automobile accident while responding to a call near Pomona, Kansas. His patrol vehicle left the roadway and struck a tree. The proposed legislation provides a lasting recognition through memorial highway signage around the south and east side of Ottawa, Kansas, right smack dab in the middle of Franklin County, to ensure that his service and sacrifice are honored. And with that, committee, I will let the people of Franklin County who knew Sam best and miss him most. Fill you in on who Sam is.
Thank you, Rebecca, or Representative Schmoy. Does anybody have any questions for Representative Schmoy? Okay, if not, thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have Jeff Curry, former sheriff, Franklin County, Kansas. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Curry.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeff Curry. I'm the former sheriff of Franklin County, Kansas. I've known Sam and his mother Katie since Sam was in high school. I first met Sam while I was teaching the high school criminal justice class where he was a student. It was apparent then that this kid was different. Some people go their entire life trying to find their purpose. Sam didn't have this problem. From being named one of President George H.W. Bush's 1,000 Points of Light, which is in support of volunteerism, to starting the Youth in Government program in Ottawa, Sam was always looking for ways to improve the world around him. Sam embodied empathy in a way that most people cannot understand. Dennis Prager once said, "Goodness is about character, integrity, honesty, kindness, generosity, moral courage, and the like. More than anything else, it's about how we treat other people." Sam had a way of making you feel comfortable around him. He possessed a vulnerable honesty that one could not only help but trust. Without going into the details of the tragic circumstances of Sam's death, I will only say this. Sam was responding to frantic calls for help from his patrol sergeant, who was being threatened by a man who was brandishing a weapon. I know Sam, and the only thing on his mind at that time was, I have to help him. I would be remiss in not recognizing that we are all in some way a product of our upbringing. Sam was raised by his mother, Katie, alone. He was her only child. You may ask, how do I know the impact that Katie had on the character of her son? On that fateful night of Sam's passing, it was my responsibility to go to Katie's home and to notify her of what had happened. I could see the fear, pain, and sadness in her eyes. Her response to me was, "I am so sorry you had to come tell me this." Empathy. Ladies and gentlemen of the Kansas House of Representatives, as you deliberate House Bill 2471, I ask you not to consider how Sam died, but how he lived. It is not the ultimate sacrifice he should be remembered by, but the many smaller ones that touched so many lives along the way, like 1,000 points of light. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Curry? Okay. If not, we'll proceed to the next person on the agenda, Sheriff Richards of Franklin County. Sheriff. Welcome to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair Essex, and Ranking Member Helgerson, committee members, my name is Jeff Richards. I have the honor of serving as the current Sheriff of Franklin County. I'm here today to express my support for House Bill 2471, an act which would designate a portion of Interstate 35 as Deputy Sam Smith Memorial Highway. Throughout his life, Sam Smith was active in many community service projects and organizations. As an 8th grade student at Ottawa Middle School, Sam received a State Volunteer Award. The City of Ottawa declared November 19, 2001 as Samuel Smith Day to honor his service to the community. Sam's dedication to service and his natural leadership ability were demonstrated when he helped to form the Youth in Government Teen Court. He was also appointed to 3 consecutive terms on the Kansas Volunteer Commission by then Governor Kathleen Sebelius. He was always eager to help and volunteered many hours to serve others. Sam graduated from Ottawa High School with the class of 2006. He continued to live his life dedicated to service to others. He chose to enter the law enforcement profession as a way to serve the community that he loved. Sam became a deputy with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office in 2009. Tragically, on July 23, 2010, Deputy Sam Smith gave his life in the line of duty while responding to a call for service. Oftentimes, when a deputy or a police officer is killed in the line of duty, we refer to them as heroes. We should always remember that Sam was not a hero because of how he died, but because of how he lived. Deputy Sam Smith Memorial Highway would be a great way to honor Sam's life of service and encourage others to follow his example. Sam is still talked about within the sheriff's office and around our community. Many of his coworkers are still with the sheriff's office today. Designating a portion of I-35 highway to honor Sam Smith will mean a lot to the sheriff's office, Sam's family, and our entire community. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Sheriff, for your testimony. Anybody have any questions for the sheriff? Seeing none, thank you. Next conferee is Corporal Jesse Vega with Franklin County Sheriff's Office. Okay, so we'll consider his as written. Jared Fredericks. Jared, welcome to the committee.
Chairman Francis and members of the committee, I want to thank you for allowing me to testify on behalf of my friend, Deputy Sam Smith. If anyone deserves this honor, it is Sam. Many times, we lionize people after they're gone, but with Sam, it is true. I met Sam on the first day of employment, his employment at the sheriff's office. I realized after a short conversation with him that this young man was doing this job for the right reasons. I've trained many young officers, and the difference is clear that for some, the job makes the man, while for a few others, the man makes the job. Sam made the job. His passion for his duties came from the compassion for the people in the community. I was a training officer in the FTO program at the department, and Sam was assigned to me for both Phase 1 and Phase 3 of the program. For those who don't know, that entails spending 10 hours a day or more together, 4 days a week, for many weeks in a row. It's like taking a 10-hour road trip together every day for weeks on end. Not only is it a road trip, but every call, every encounter with the public is likely to be emotionally charged. Sam understood that in most of these situations, somebody was having a bad day, or even quite possibly the worst day of their life. The balance between taking control of a bad situation and having compassion for the people you are dealing with is a fine line to walk. Sam walked that line perfectly from the beginning. He also realized that suspending someone's constitutional rights, which is what happens when you arrest them, was a weighty decision, and that you must be able to articulate why it's necessary with honesty and integrity. There could be no greater example of this than a call which took place in the last week of his life. Due to time constraints, I won't explain the call in depth, but this is it in a nutshell. It was a DUI situation where Sam was almost certain, the word there is almost, that a registered owner was the driver, but he could not definitively testify to that. Ultimately, the decision was made to call the driver's father to pick him up. When he left with his father, who was obviously less than pleased to receive a call at 2 o'clock in the morning about his young son, Sam looked at me and said, "That may be worse for him than spending the night in jail." With that, I knew that Sam understood that the job was to keep peace and to keep people safe. His integrity and compassion informed him to see people as people and not as mere statistics. My testimony thus far tells you about the professional Sam, that he took his job seriously and that he performed with honor and integrity. Now I'd like to tell you about Sam the man. With many hours that we spent together, we got to know each other on a level that few people can. We had many conversations where we talked about our personal lives in depth. Sam told me about being raised by his mother, and Katie, you did a great job. He talked about his formative years of living in a small apartment and his understanding of her love for him and how hard he knew that it had been for her as a single mom. He told me of an incident where as a small child he got into a little bit of trouble, but that trouble actually ended up being a turning point in his life. By the age of 13, his compassion for the community in which he lived had germinated and grown to the point that Ottawa held a Sam Smith Day in his honor. 10 years later, Sam was interested in a young woman. And as we talked about it, Sam looked at me and said, "I'm going to have to ask her dad if I can take her out." Tell me, I was shocked. Tell me about another young man in 2010 who would say that. But that tells you who Sam Smith was. He lived with old-fashioned honor and integrity. Sam was taken from us on the night of July 23rd, 2010. He died serving his community, headed to a domestic violence call. The last words that Sam said to me, "I'll see you later, brother." I can think of no one more deserving of the honor of having part of I-35 named for him. Thank you for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Fredericks. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Fredericks? Seeing none. Next, conferee is Katie Smith. Welcome to the committee, Katie.
Chairman Francis, committee members, thank you for this consideration. I would like to introduce you, although I don't need to, introduce you to the young man behind the name, Sam Smith. He was my son. Sam packed a full life into his short.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can someone make sure the mic's on?
The blue light is on?
Blue light's on. Stay here.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. Sam packed a full life into his 22 years. When he was in 6th grade, Sam joined the Youth Action Council and the Youth in Government program in Ottawa. Through these programs, he happily volunteered in his community. He mowed lawns, ran errands when needed, and would give up his Saturday afternoons to have lunch and play games with senior citizens at the nursing home. Through the Youth in Government program, Sam was instrumental in bringing the teen court program to Ottawa. And he was appointed to consecutive terms on the Kansas State Volunteer Board. When he was in 8th grade, as you guys have heard, Sam was the first person under the age of 18 to be awarded the You Make a Difference Award in the state of Kansas. And Sam didn't do these things for the accolades or the recognition. He did them exactly for that. He wanted to make a difference. President Bush recognized Sam as one of his 1,000 points of light, and that's what he was to his community, a point of light. Sam was a Cub Scout, a Boy Scout, and he served in the Civil Air Patrol. As an adult and deputy, Sam participated in the Torch Run for Special Olympics and helped sponsor a family for Christmas when he was training at KLETC. And even now, the Deputy Sam Smith Memorial Scholarship is offered and awarded to students in Franklin County who are interested in law enforcement and becoming a first responder. But beyond all these things, Sam was a loving son, grandson, nephew, cousin. He was a good friend and a man of integrity and honor. I'm a better person for having had him in my life. If Sam could be here, he would tell you that he loved his family and friends. He loved his brothers and sisters in blue and loved being a deputy for the Franklin County Sheriff's Department. He loved his community, and he tried to show that in the best of his, to the best of his ability. And I thank you for the opportunity to show that his community loved him back. I can picture someone driving on this section of Interstate 35, whether it be a resident, a commuter, somebody for the World Cup, seeing the sign and Googling Deputy Sam Smith of Franklin County, Kansas, and there's his light shining again. Thank you for your time and consideration and for the opportunity to let his light shine again.
Thank you so much, Katie, for your testimony. And I know how proud you are of him and what a wonderful young man that you raised.
Thank you.
Representative Holheisel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Smith, for being here today. And I want to echo the the thoughts of the chair. Thank you for the gift of Sam's life. I think from everything we've heard today, you stated Sam made you a better person, and it sounds like he made our community a better place, and we need more Sams in the world. So thank you so much for the gift of his life and everything he's done to serve our community.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me.
Any other questions or comments? Representative Collins.
Yeah, I just want to, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo what everyone else has said, and I do travel that little piece of I-35 when I go back and forth home from here. And now when the signs are up, I'll know a little bit about who they're honoring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing further. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any, I'll bring the committee's attention to a written only testimony by Brendan Jones, County Attorney, Franklin County, Chief Darrell Atterbury, Legislative Chair, Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police, Sheriff Jeff Easter, Kansas Legislative Chair, Kansas Sheriff's Association, Adam Weingartner, Chief of Police, Ottawa Police Department. Is there any other proponent testimony? Yes, sir. Come forward.
Thank you. Sorry, I got mine in late, so thank you for letting me speak. Chair Francis, Ranking Member Helgerson, members of the House Committee on Transportation. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on House Bill 2471. My name is Zachary Clayton, and I currently serve as the mayor of Ottawa, Kansas. And I appear today in my official capacity as mayor and also as a friend of Sam. House Bill 2471 proposes naming a portion of Interstate 35 in honor of Deputy Sam Smith, a sheriff's deputy who lost his life in the line of duty while serving our community. This designation is a fitting and lasting recognition of a man who embodied public service, courage, and sacrifice, as we have heard here today. Sam Smith was not just a name on a roster or a badge number. He was a colleague, a friend, and someone many of us trusted without hesitation. Like so many in law enforcement, he did his job quietly, faithfully, never seeking recognition, only doing what needed to be done to protect others in our community. This past year, I had the opportunity to visit the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., where Sam's name is engraved. I was able to stand there with my 10-year-old daughter and explain who he was, why his name was on there, and what it means when someone gives their life in service to the community. That moment underscored for me why remembrance really matters, not only for those who knew Sam personally, but also for the next generation who will inherit the responsibility of understanding his sacrifice. For those of us who are close to Sam, his memory is carried on every day. Several of his friends, including myself, carry his badge number 287 tattooed on our inner arms. It's not a symbol of grief alone, but a symbol to remember his commitment, a reminder of who he was and what he stood for, and the responsibility we have to honor that legacy through our actions. Naming the stretch of I-35 is not merely symbolic. It ensures that Sam's service is recognized visibly in a permanent way for our community, one that will remind thousands of Kansans each day that safety they enjoy is made possible by individuals willing to place themselves in harm's way on behalf of others. House Bill 2471 reflects the values Kansas has long upheld: respect for service, gratitude for sacrifice, and remembrance of those who gave everything in the line of duty. This designation does not politicize Sam's life in any way. It simply honors it. On behalf of the City of Ottawa, myself, Sam's mother, Katie, his fellow officers, his friends, and the many Kansans whose lives are safer because of his service, I respectfully ask that this committee continue to support House Bill 2471. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions for the mayor? Okay, if you could email
I emailed
that.
to the, this morning.
Yep, so we can get it as part of the record. Thank you very much. All right, any other proponent testimony? Seeing none, do we have any neutral testimony? Is there any opponent testimony? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing on House Bill 2471. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and your to Sheriff Smith's life, or Officer Smith's life. Now move on to House Bill 2467. In committee, I want to remind all of you, we try to run as much as possible a paperless committee here. So all of these documents every day will be on your S drive, on your laptop. That, I'll open the hearing on House Bill 2467, prohibiting past convictions or sanctions for failure to comply with traffic citation that's more than 5 years old. With that, Chris, would you give us a overview?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, House Bill 2467 amends KSA 8-2110. This is a statute that provides procedures for when a person fails to comply with a traffic citation. And so what that means is someone gets a traffic infraction, fails to pay as it's defined in KSA 8-2110. It's either they fail to appear before a district court or pay any fine or court costs ordered by the court, or otherwise comply with that traffic citation as provided in the Uniform Fine Schedule for traffic infractions. The 2024 Legislature enacted Senate Bill 500, which created new procedures and requirements related to the restriction and suspension of driving privileges, specifically for failing to comply with the traffic citation. As part of those amendments in Senate Bill 500, KSA 8-2110, subsection H was added as new language to direct the courts and Division of Vehicles to not consider any convictions for failure to comply, violating 8-2110, that are more than 5 years old to determine suspended or restricted driving privileges. Subsection H also added new language to require the Division of Vehicles to notify a person by mail that the person is eligible for driving privileges due to the expiration of 5 years from the date of conviction for failure to comply. And then finally, H3, subsection H3, applied the changes or this 5-year kind of look back period retroactively. So it would apply to anyone, not just to those after the bill was enacted. So what the bill would do is amend that subsection H to specify that not only convictions for failure to comply, but any sanctions for failure to comply that are more than 5 years old shall not be considered by the courts or the Division of Vehicles. And then it would also remove a line in H1 that says in determining suspended or restricted driving privileges. And in subsection H2, that mailing notice requirement for the division would be stricken entirely. And finally, the bill would amend that retroactivity paragraph to state that not only were the original new language added as subsection H from Senate Bill 500, but also the amendments made from this bill regarding sanctions would also be applied retroactively. And if enacted, the provisions of this bill would become effective July 1, 2026, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Chris? So I have one, and maybe it's I don't understand some legalese, but so right now it says any conviction or sanction for a failure to comply pursuant to this section shall not be considered by the district or municipal court or the Division of Vehicles in determining suspended or restricted driving privileges. But we're striking the restricted or the suspended and restricted driving privileges. So are we saying when we make that change that that it won't apply to any offense? Or I mean, I'm not sure I understand the way that reads. It sounds like we're opening a can of worms there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that might be a better question for one of the other conferees. That was requested to me when I wrote the bill. It's my understanding that might be requested to be added back in. So.
All All right, any other questions? Representative Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. You said that we're adding the new language, language we're adding is more than 5 years. Is that correct? What was it previously?
So, I mean, previously that look back provision didn't exist. So if someone was convicted for violating 8-2110 for failing to comply with a traffic citation, it would, if they didn't comply with the traffic citation within 30 days, those driving privileges were suspended. So there, and like I said, that subsection H was completely new as part of Senate Bill 500, but it only applied to convictions for failure to comply, not sanctions. And sanctions here, we're talking about, you know, a suspension or restriction of driving privileges by the division. So, yeah, the 5-year look-back period exists as part of Senate Bill 500, but only for convictions. This bill would add it for sanctions as well.
5 years is in statute now, as of when that bill was passed last year. Okay. Any other questions? Did I miss somebody? Other hand, Representative Delperdang.
Thank you, Chair. When you referred, and you referred several times to traffic citation, if we get into some of the more serious crimes, repeat offenders for DUI, what is it, manslaughter, et cetera, does that still fall under a basic citation, or is that a whole different thing?
Well, I mean, Mr. Representative, it wouldn't, what we're talking about with this bill are only like suspensions or restrictions for failure to comply itself.
But minor traffic citations is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
So like, yeah, if it, as part of the Senate Bill 500 changes, some people might not be eligible for restricted driving privileges, which is kind of more of an automatic process under the new procedures. If their license is suspended for any reason other than failure to comply, or there's a list of, you know, minor traffic infractions, I would say, don't necessarily involve driving in 8-2110, where those wouldn't be considered a failure to comply. So DUI, yeah, if your license is suspended for that, like you know.
I was on an interim committee on this, and someone may need to make sure I don't wander off into the forest on this, but I think one of the examples they gave was like, do you remember when Representative Patton got his ticket for parking in the wrong spot in the basement? That would be one of the things that you could lose your license for failing to comply with that. Yeah, you got a ticket for parking in the wrong spot. Yeah. Well, only for former Representative Patton. So anyway, I mean, that's kind of what brought this bill around. Okay, any other questions for Chris? Hey, seeing none, we'll move on to the fiscal note. Fiscal note is $10,600. It's like $4,000 to mail reinstatement letters to affected individuals and $6,600 for programming and research. So with that, we're going to digress a little bit from the daily agenda, and our first proponent bill will be Representative Wilborn. Welcome to the committee, Senator. And by the way, I'm really glad that you've been here a year, and so that now you're house trained.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you done? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Ranking Committee. I am Rick Wilburn. I am on this committee, for some of you that didn't know it. I'm going to give you a little history. Chris did a great job going into the technicalities. We're not trying to change Senate Bill 500. In 2024, I sponsored and carried Senate Bill 500. It was an effort to obtain restricted driver's license for essential tasks such as commuting to work, school, childcare, religious service, etc., for people that got caught up in the morass of a compounding effect of continuous traffic fines, no way of getting out of them. Senate Bill 500 passed the Senate 36-1, passed the House 120-0. And what we're here today for is to only technically amend Section H on page 20 or 6, line number 29. It limited to convictions. We wanted to broaden that to catch a bigger safety net of people that had sanctions, including convictions. No change to the DUI restrictions and all the manslaughter charges. That's all addressed in Senate Bill 500. We're not messing with that at all. These are just amendments. You could call this a technical change or a trailer bill to Senate Bill 500. We have two conferees here today that are very knowledgeable in the depth of this. Like Chris said, this is retroactive. I think one of the conferees addressed the question that you brought, Mr. Chairman, as it related to the line that was stricken. I think she may recommend that that be put back in, and before we work the bill, we'll request an amendment to address that very issue. So with that, I'll stand for questions, but I think you're better served to ask the people following me. Thank you.
I think that last comment of his was so he could get off the hook and not stray out of his knowledge base. All right. Next on the agenda is we have Marilyn Harp, who is an expert, and we can ask her anything. Welcome to the committee, Marilyn.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Francis and committee. My name is Marilyn Harp. I have followed this effort and advocated for this effort for a while. So if I come to this because of working with individuals who are in that morass and trying to provide them a roadmap about how to get out. There literally are people in every one of your communities who who have lost their driver's licenses because they can't pay the fine because it is literally beyond their means, and have responded to that either by finding a job they can walk to, which limits their choices. Some of them make the decision to drive illegally, or they simply stay at home and live the life that can happen with. The numbers on this are somewhat staggering. In October of 2023, when the interim committee on Senate Bill 5, on what resulted in Senate Bill 500 was occurring, there were 125,881 Kansans whose licenses were suspended due to a failure to comply with a traffic citation. 125,000 people not in the workforce because they don't have a driver's license. So Senate Bill 500 took some steps, but like with anything, there was the need for a technical amendment, and so as the KDOR, Ms. Black will explain, a court notifies KDOR of a failure to comply, and then KDOR issues a sanction. So there's a conviction by the court, but then a sanction by KDOR. And so we need both those words in there before this will happen. And that is really what this law does, conviction or sanction. Two different entities use two different words for what we might think of as the same thing. And in fact, the interim committee thought of it as the same thing, but it's not. So we know from the fiscal note that this simple change will result in 25,000 people immediately being reinstated to full driving privileges. I looked at the fiscal note and thought, you know, if this committee wanted to do for $15,000, you all would win the prize for improving economic development of getting 25,000 people into the workforce by spending $15,000. The other thing I'll just mention is this notice provision that you see is all struck, and why would you do that? Well, anyone whose driver's license is restored will get a notice because their driver's license status changed. And so that you saw $4,000 for mailing out those notices. They're going to get a notice. But there are about another 100,000 people whose license may be, ability to get its license is improved by this, but they still don't have a license. And those people won't get a notice because their situation was just improved, not changed. So as negotiations go, that money seemed not worth spending. And so taking that out. There's this question about the language of determining suspended or restricted driving privileges. I'm guilty on that one. I'm the one who sent it to Chris. I didn't think it was that big a deal when I sent it to Chris, but issues have come up, and I don't think it affects what we're talking about here at all to put that back in when you work the bills. So I think that would be great. You have, as said, clearly a technical amendment. You have testimony from the KBA, from the Racial Profiling Committee, but I want to point out who you don't hear from on this because they agree it's a technical amendment. League of Municipalities knows about this, and I spoke with them, not submitting testimony because of the technical amendment. Ed Klump, representing all the folks he represents, thinks it's a technical amendment, so he's not here today either supporting or opposing this. So people who've been a part of this effort are not here. One other thing, just because this may come up later, so I want to, you have testimony, well, and we may be, are we hearing from Walt Chappell? Is he appearing by FedEx?
Yes, he's
Okay,
online.
All right. Well, he believes that this bill wipes out fines, and I do not believe that it wipes out any fines. It just allows people to have a driver's license. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Harp? Representative Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony. How did, it says here that it goes back all the 5 years. How did you get 5 years?
You know, compromise, right? That was what that 5 years was what the interim committee of folks that Representative Francis and then Senator Wilburn were on, and that's what they landed on. I don't think it, the balance, of course, is if you make it too short, people are not incentivized to pay their fines. People who, if you make it long enough, then the people who can possibly pay their fines have figured out how to do it and gotten their license back that way. So I think that's the two options there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next conferee, and it is Walt Chappell, and he's the former vice chair of the Racial Profiling Advisory Board of Wichita, and he's online. Welcome to committee, Walt.
Thank you so much, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. I appreciate this opportunity to testify on a very important, say, a technicality on one hand, but on an opportunity to actually make a difference on another. I appreciate my friend, Senator Rick Wilburn. I'll now call him, as you say, he's house trained. He has an opportunity to actually clear up a problem that has existed for a short while. We have been trying to get people back on the road since 2004. Actually, Senate Bill 77 was passed, as I mentioned in my testimony, in 2005. We finally got that bill passed, but then forever and ever, we have had one reason or another why people have not been able to get license back and get it back on the road, be able to be productive citizens. So we got Senate Bill 127 passed. That was in 2021. And then we came back with Senate Bill 500, got it passed in 2023. And now we find it's another technicality where you have to use the word sanction, supposedly, as well as convictions to even get your application for a restricted license approved. The point I'm getting at is that only 317 people that went through the process in 2022 actually got a restricted license. There were over 3,000 applications, but that was out of 208,000 who have a suspended license. So you can see we're not getting very far very fast. And my concern is that the bill that we have today is excellent. I approve it, support it. But please go ahead and look at the provisions that we included in 2023 in Senate Bill 192. And that bill was specifically set up so that you could help the people who've had arrest warrants and they're out there with a possibility of being stopped at any time by a police officer or a sheriff deputy and immediately have their car impounded. They have to get it back by paying an impound fee and the towing fee. It just compounds one thing after another. But that Senate Bill 192 would allow people to have that warrant removed by the court and be able to say, all right, come in, let's get this thing worked out. The second is to be able to set up a payment plan by calling the court and talking to the clerk of that court and say, all right, I'd like to make monthly payments like you would any other bill that you would have in your life, and say, okay, now I'm here. Let's get this thing settled so you can go ahead and have your appearance done before you would actually have to show up. Frequently, these warrants are for non-compliance of showing up for the hearing, to be able to stand in front of the judge and say, yes, I'll pay you on a monthly basis. The judge said, fine. What are you working out? What can we have as an agreement? But that could be done by phone before the court ever has to sit you down and put them on their docket. This would free up the dockets all over our state for traffic violations that are really very minuscule by comparison to what the transaction is. The other item it does is allow for actual download of the restricted license application and be able to download the manifest hardship motion that people are now under Senate Bill 500 able to go ahead and do on a regular basis. But most courts don't even let the litigants know that there is such an option. They will come in and start paying their fines, but they have no idea that they can stand before the court and ask them to reduce the fines that have accumulated. Now, let me point out to you that the problem of the 5-year look back is a real issue, because many of these people have fines they owed for a long time because they could no longer possibly pay for them. And I'm very concerned that we have a situation where we've priced this out of the market. We have people with $20,000 and $30,000 in fines, and they're never going to be able to pay that back on a restricted license or otherwise. So you have an opportunity with this particular bill that House Representative Wilburn has introduced to actually make a few minor adjustments to Senate Bill 500 and make it real, so that approximately $48 million in fines can be collected, and you can get more of these 200,000 Kansans back on the road. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this with you, and hopefully you'll take this opportunity and make it real. Thank you very much for your time.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Chappell? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, committee. We also have a proponent testimony from Joseph Molina on behalf of the KBA, Kansas Bar Association, for you, Representative Heisel, Bankers Association. Sheila Officer, Chair of the Racial Profiling Advisory Board, Wichita. Mike Frunkert, Deputy Director, Kansas Appleseed Center for Law and Justice. Do we have any other proponent testimony? Seeing none, we move on to neutral testimony. We have one person here, Lacey Black, Manager, Division of Vehicles, Kansas Department of Revenue. Welcome to the committee, Lacey. And thanks for your work day in, day out for helping people navigate this process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, for this opportunity to provide neutral testimony for House Bill 2467. My name is Lacey Black. I am the manager of Driver Solutions with the Division of Vehicles. And Driver Solutions is the department that is responsible for receiving and processing all correspondence that is received from Kansas courts And this includes suspending and restricting driving privileges for failure to comply with traffic citations. Most of my testimony was covered already, so you kind of know the numbers that we're looking at here. So there are possibly around 25,000 drivers who could be fully reinstated if this bill were to pass. How this would happen is the division would have to work with our IT department. We will have to create batch jobs to run, to send these drivers letters to let them know that they have been reinstated since they've passed that 5-year mark. And then we will have to make permanent updates to our system. So any future failure to comply citations that are received have a marker set for that 5-year mark. So when that comes up, our staff will review it, see if they have any other steps or if they can just be cleared at that point, and then they will be reinstated. So a little bit of legwork to get it all set up, but it will affect a lot of drivers. Now, it is the division's understanding that this bill only impacts the driving privileges, not the fines and fees that are owed to the courts. So those will still be there for that driver to handle. The state will just no longer keep their license suspended or restricted. With that being said, the division would ask that that piece that is stricken be put back into the bill that says in determining suspended or restricted driving privileges. That just clarifies that we are just speaking to the privileges of the driver's license. And then just one other piece I wanted to touch on, it's not in my testimony, but it was brought up, just about the large amount of fees and fines that may be owed over time. One change that Senate Bill 500 did make was the restricted license now is indefinite. So if someone has a suspension for failure to comply and they get put on the restriction, it's no longer just a 12-month restriction and they have to pay everything in that 12 months. It's indefinite. So as long as they're not continuously receiving new sanctions or convictions, they can drive to work and drive where they need to drive while they're paying their fines and fees. So that is currently in place. That is all I have, so I will stand for questions.
So just to clarify, let's say you owe $1,500 worth of fines. You don't get full driving ability back. You get a restricted license that lets you go to work, to the doctor, to daycare, a couple of things like that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There's criteria that you have to meet to be eligible for that restriction, but yes, there's a list of places you can drive. That was also changed with Senate Bill 500. It opened more places for the person to drive. And like I said, that is now indefinite. It used to be 12 months. Now you can be on it forever while you're attempting to pay your fines and fees off.
Let me ask one other question. Mr. Chappell brought it up that you can't set up a payment plan with them. They've got to go to court to set up a payment plan. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The division only handles the suspension and restrictions of the driving privileges. We don't have anything to do with the fines and fees that they owe to the court. We do, when we send them a notice letting them know they've been suspended or restricted, they do get where the failure to comply is from and the phone number and the contact information to contact that court.
Did the notification language that's being stricken in this, does that help some on that earlier thing that you brought up? You said something about we've got to notify thousands and thousands of people.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So originally there was a piece that said the division would need to notify the driver once they hit 5 years. And after looking it over and looking at the numbers, the division thought it made more sense to just cut that piece out, not put it back on the customer or the driver, and just have the division clear it after 5 years automatically.
All right, any other questions, Representative Van Houten?
I have a question about the fines. So if I say I get a $150 fine for something, does it accrue over time? Is there more being tacked on? Is that why people are getting these out?
Thank you for your question, Representative. That I don't know the answer to because the division doesn't have anything to do with what is owed. It's all through the courts. Not sure if it adds up over time.
Marilyn, do you want to pop up and answer that one real quick, just so we can be time efficient?
Well, the $150 you get has court fees attached to it that might be as much as another $200 or $300, so your fine gets pretty big. If they turn it over to collection, then collection fees get added and interest gets added. And so that's how these fees get so large. And certainly larger municipal courts are turning them over to collection. District courts are turning them over to collection.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of these, as you've already mentioned, municipal courts are the ones that are charging these fines and fees. So it's basically up to each city, is what I understand. Nothing in this bill will stop maybe if they have a different rule, like maybe after 2 years, their fees can go away. Do local governments have the opportunity to manipulate that 5 years as far as fees and fines? Not talking about reinstating driver's license, I'm just talking about the fee piece. Does this bill stop local governments from being able to do their own, if it's a shorter time frame? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Representative. In KSA 8-2110, which that's the statute that this is affecting, there is verbiage in there that the court has the authority to waive certain fees and fines. That's current practice. That's already in there. So this bill would not be affecting that.
Representative Delperdang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple questions. I'm just trying to understand this. So at the 5-year mark under this bill, does that mean outstanding balance fines, everything, they're just dismissed? Or what's this bill really doing?
Thank you, Representative. No, the way the division is understanding this is after the 5 years, the division will no longer hold your license suspended or restricted, if that's all you were suspended or restricted on. And that's why the numbers that we provided may differ, because obviously if there's a driver that has some other suspensions that has to do with a DUI or insurance suspensions, they're not going to be fully reinstated from this. But no, the fines and the fees that that person owes to the court, that's still going to be there. They're still going to be accountable for paying those. The division will no longer suspend or restrict the license.
So we essentially give up our leverage to try and get it from them. There's no reason to pay it at that point. Is that kind of a correct statement?
The division will no longer suspend you after that 5-year mark.
And then if the chair don't mind, earlier on the video testimony, we heard some of these people owe upwards of $20,000. What's kind of the average outstanding fines? Is that a realistic number? Or is it something much lower?
Thank you for your question. That I do not have the answer to. The division does not keep track of fines and fees owed to the courts. We only get the documentation that shows they failed to comply, and then we suspend or restrict. So the amounts I do not have.
So that number is not necessarily out there then.
I could do some research with the courts and see if they have a number, and I can get that back to you guys.
And then it's like every district court and every municipal court in the entire state has their own ledger on that stuff, right?
Yes.
That's what I was thinking. I'm not expecting you to do that. So today, without this, can payments be made? I think I heard the answer was no. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you for your question.
Back to his $150 fine over there, and I don't have it. Can I make $25 or $50 a month payment and be in compliance?
Yes, Representative. So currently, I believe you can set up payment plans through the courts, but it's not going to affect your driving privileges. If you are suspended or restricted for a failure to comply, that stays in effect until the division is notified that you have paid in full to the court.
But if I'm making those payments, aren't I complying at that point, or is this going a little bit deeper?
It depends, because on a failure to comply, the person could have failed to pay or they could have failed to appear. So it all depends.
Okay. And then and there's not in here, but I'm just thinking too, back to the fine that was mentioned. If they can't pay that, is there anything in here that says, hey, before we give you your license back, we need proof of insurance to be a responsible driver out there and head out onto the traffic again?
Thank you for your question. That I don't believe proof of insurance is required unless the citation had to do with an insurance stop.
Thank you, Chair.
Representative Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your permission, I would like to have Lacey Black work with Chris on a proposed amendment before we work the bill. Thank you.
Representative Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One more question, just for clarification. If I missed this, I'm sorry. But let's say that we're in this and the 5 years has been forgiven, not the fees, but they are granted their restricted license. What happens if I'm a repeat offender and it happens once, twice, 3 more times? Does this change how we react to this?
Thank you, Representative, for that question. There is nothing in the verbiage that speaks to repeat offenders for this. So the way the division is reading this is after the 5 years, that specific suspension or restriction would be cleared. And if the person continues to receive more failure to comply, it would just go through the same process. It would be suspended or restricted for the 5-year period, and then it would be cleared at that point. So there's nothing in that statute or in this bill that speaks to repeat offenders.
Any other questions for Lacey? Seeing none, is there any opponent testimony? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing on House Bill 2467. Committee, we will not be meeting tomorrow, but we will meet Wednesday. You know, at a minimum, we will, I plan to work House Bill 2471, kick that out, give people some opportunities to get some more bills introduced. We may also work this bill, House Bill 2467, if we can get some things cleared up and we feel good about that. Thursday, we will also be changing the agenda and we will meet to work House Bill, the one we heard last Thursday, the one on the racetrack, zoning stuff, 2416. So no meeting tomorrow and plan to meet Wednesday and Thursday. Okay. Is there anything else for the committee? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.